Well, I was looking down the barrel of a major milestone, my 40th birthday. No one's favorite rite of passage. Now, we all know that 40 isn't old, if you're a tree. But I wasn't a tree. And my mother had died just a few months before, and this was going to be the first birthday I was going to have without her. And I was deeply grieving. I certainly didn't want a party, and I didn't even really know if I wanted to go out and celebrate. So I shot up a quick prayer, because that's the kind of thing I always do. And I said, Lord, I so miss my mother. Now, if she was here, she'd give me a wonderful party, and I'd have a memorable birthday, but she's not. So, Lord, would you do something for my birthday, my 40th birthday, that will help me to remember it? I'd be so grateful. Thank you. Amen. And then I thought, what would my mother do? And instantly, words that I knew she would have said flooded my mind. And it was, darling, what, you're not going to have a party on my behalf? If I was here, I wouldn't just give you one, I'd give you two, but at least, sweetheart, go out and celebrate. My mother loved parties, and entertaining was her art form. And she always wanted me, her only daughter, to be a thin, flat-chested model with all the glamour that goes with that lifestyle. But it wasn't going to happen. But my mother never gave up trying. I could hear her saying, darling, go out and buy yourself a new outfit, something low and flowy, nothing that makes you look like an academic, sweetheart, or a nun, God forbid. And go and celebrate. And then make sure you have your hair done and have a mani-pedi. You've got to keep up appearances. So I phoned up my new best friend. Now, I had been out of England for 8 years, and on coming back to London, I discovered that most of my old friends had moved on because London's a very transitory place. But I had met Marion, and we met in church in a prayer meeting, and she was 10 years older than me, and she was from New Zealand. And she said, I'd love to celebrate your birthday with you. Now, you say that you want to see something that represents the state of British theatre. Well, how about that new musical that's just opened in the West End, Chicago? And then we can go out for dinner. Well, my mother would have loved it. She would have loved the dancing, she would have loved the costumes, she would have loved the West End. But I bought the dress, and I'd made the appointment for the hair and the mani-pedi, and I thought, no, I'm going to have my choice of entertainment. So I said, no, doesn't quite do it for me. She said, well, here's another one. She said, how about Cliff Richard singing in Heathcliff in Hammersmith? Well, my mother loved the British famous singer Cliff Richard, but this was my birthday. And I said, no, it doesn't quite do it for me. Now, we were both looking at copies of Time Out, which gives the London weekly entertainment listings, and something jumped out at me. And I said, well, how about this, Marion? It's a solo show, and it's a dancer who's interpreting the heyday of Hollywood musicals. It's in a warehouse in North London. My mother would have hated it. It was way too arty for her tastes. But Marion and I, we bought the tickets, and on my birthday, we turned up at the theatre, and we stood outside the auditorium. And there was a big sign that said, because of the configuration of the auditorium, it is very difficult to leave your seats during your performance. There is no interval. May we suggest that you take care of business before entering? Lavatories are on the left. So we peeked inside the theatre, and we saw there was just one long aisle, and off it was about 45 or 50 seats. And if you were sitting near the back wall, the opposite wall, which is where our seats were, it would be impossible to get out. So we took their advice, and we took their seats. And the whole place started filling up because we knew that it was a full house. And I looked at the setting. It was very simple. It was just a black curtain, and hanging in front of the curtain, there were large gold frames of different shapes and sizes. Well, the lights went down, the lights came up, the music started. It was, I've only got eyes for you. And a dancer leapt on the stage, and he was dancing sideways with his back to the audience. And we all only had eyes for him because he was only wearing a nude bodysuit, nothing else. And I was just thinking, it's amazing the advances they've made in the technology of those bodysuits. when the man started to pirouette, and I started to see things. And I thought, surely not. But I am short-sighted, so I took off my glasses, polished them, put them back on. Well, at this point, the man was playing peekaboo with one of the gold frames, and I realized that the frame was not the only thing that was hanging. He was starkers. He was naked. He didn't have a stitch on. Well, I was meant to be the only person in that place that was in their birthday suit. I mean, this man was upstaging me. I mean, really. Now, I wasn't too concerned about the nudity. I spent a lot of time growing up in the south of Spain. But as I watched him, I didn't think... Education. It was an education. But I didn't think he was a particularly good dancer, and to me, the whole show pivoted on the shock value. But I was very concerned about Marion. Of course, she was older, she was a good Christian woman, and I noticed that her eyes were down and she was fumbling with her purse. And then her shoulders were shaking, and I thought, oh no, she's crying. Oh no, what happens if she tries to make a break for it? If she starts standing on the heads of people to get out to the entrance? Or worse, if she tries to body surf her way out of here? I mean, think of the damage she'll cause. I mean, think of the lawsuits. Well, at that point, the man was leaping across the stage. He was doing grand jetés, and everything was flying. He looked like a human pendulum. And then the song segued into, "You've lost that loving feeling," and the man started slithering across the floor. And I thought if he gets a splinter, he will have lost that loving feeling. I couldn't wait to get out of there. Well, the whole thing finished. Marion and I got up and we started going, and I heard people saying, oh, that was a superb performance, absolutely marvelous, absolutely wonderful, a wonderful interpretation, and fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I thought, were we in the same show? I clearly was in a production of The Emperor Has No Clothes. Well, we fell out into the cool London night air, and we looked at each other, and then we burst out laughing. I said, well, it serves me right. I mean, I certainly saw the state of British theatre and a lot more beside. But Marion, I was concerned about you. And she said, oh, she said, no. She said, no need. She said, I was an emergency room nurse in New Zealand. I've seen it all. But I was trying to hold myself together because I was really concerned I was going to burst out laughing. And the man, well, he looked as though he just dropped his clothes like a naughty little boy. And he was cavorting so much, I thought he might stand on himself and do permanent damage. And we all started laughing again, both of us. But it was all of us because I heard my mother laughing too. And I realized that once again, I was laughing with my mother on my birthday. And that's when I realized that she would always be with me, and it was all going to be all right. So Marion and I, we went out for dinner, and we toasted my birthday, we toasted the Almighty, and I thanked him because he really had given me a 40th birthday that I will never, ever forget. And really, how many people can say that the Almighty sent them a stripper for their birthday? Thank you. Thank you very much.